Certainly a big day for the class of 2024. Education experts cautioning against comparing this class with those of previous years, saying they all experience different ups and downs. Now, the class of 2024 is expected to know their fate today. Those who sat for the exam say they're anxious but are ready to see how well they performed. Quality assurer Umalusi is expected to rubber stamp the National Senior Certificate results today ahead of the official announcement by the Basic Education Minister. Of course, once that begins, we'll once again bring you those visuals as soon as they start, given, of course, how important it is. Again, we're also anticipating the Basic Education Minister, beg your pardon, to get us a sense of their response to those reports around the leaking of those exams. But let's take you back to this top story. Eastern Cape High Court judge, that's Selby Mbenenge, said to be facing misconduct investigations by the Judicial Conduct Tribunal, which may lead to his impeachment. Now, this investigation arises out of a sexual harassment complaint laid against him by Judge's Secretary Andiswa Mengo, who works in the Eastern Cape High Court. It's the first time that a tribunal will be probing some of these claims. Watching developments is our reporter Canny Maphanga, who joins us now live from the venue where this is going to take place. And Canny, this is precedent-setting in many ways.
Indeed, good morning to you, Ayanda, and to the viewers at home. As you've correctly stated, this is a historic first that the tribunal will be formally probing allegations of sexual harassment against a top judge of the Eastern Cape Division of the High Court, that is Judge President Selby Mbenenge. At 10 a.m. this morning, you will see that process begin. As we stand right now, Ayanda, there was a December 2024 ruling based on Section 29 of the JSC Act, which basically doesn't allow the media to cover certain aspects of the testimony or evidence that will be heard here with respect to the evidence that will be in dispute by Judge President Mbenenge. We understand that these allegations center around interactions, unwanted, unwelcome interactions between in-person communication as well as electronic communication through WhatsApp messages. But to elaborate further on this historic probe that will take place, which really speaks to the scourge of gender-based violence and then, of course, the important issue of sexual harassment in the workplace. We're seeing an employee coming up, addressing this issue, a very brave task taken against a very senior judge president, someone who's been on the bench since 2015, considered to be senior in the judiciary as a whole, and has enjoyed silk status before that and acting stints in the legal profession, if we can put it that way. So I think where we can start is I think there's an understanding now, despite the ruling that Judge Bernard made, that he's an individual that represents the judiciary as a whole, and there is a fear that certain allegations may cast aspersions or doubts on the judiciary, and as a result, the media was only allowed to cover certain aspects. But we understand that Judge President Mbenenge has backtracked on that and now said that it's okay to cover the entire proceedings. Is that your understanding as well?
And so we'll have to kind of figure that out throughout the day. I think that that is one of the decisions the tribunal will have to make, and maybe some of the logistical discussions that happens just before the tribunal starts today. But initially, when submissions were made around the public or in-camera nature of these proceedings, the Women's Legal Centre made submissions around needing an open and transparent process. As you've correctly stated, this is the first of its kind where sexual harassment allegations are being brought against a judicial official. And so to inspire confidence, not only within the public, but within the judiciary, the legal system, and for people to see that the system is working the way it's designed to work and to hold people accountable for various conduct, we had motivated for open and public hearings of this tribunal process. And so that the broader community is made aware of the ways in which sexual harassment can take place within a workplace. I think, like you rightly said, sexual harassment is a form of violence against women, and the Women's Legal Centre, these are kind of the proceedings that we deal with on a daily basis in our representation of women. And so we often see the need for women to be able to come forward in a way that is transparent, that is open, that is public, because we understand that the reason why violence in South Africa is still so pervasive is because of the secrecy around the violence and the secret nature in which violence occurs, and how that often only fuels impunity impunity even further.
And the complainant has taken a brave step to bring this complaint to the JSC. Of course, we are wondering as to whether if this complaint is not successful or not, what happens to the complainant next. We know that she is an employee of that division. She is making these allegations against a senior judge of the division, basically the head of the court. Should this not play out, or rather in a manner that favors the complainant, what then happens to her? What happens to her livelihood? How will Women's Legal Centre protect the victim going forward?
So at the Women's Legal Centre, we really try our best to work in a multi-pronged approach, an approach that is holistic, that not only considers complainants and women's legal needs, but provides the psychosocial support alongside with that, provides the physical, the emotional. So we look at wellness of our intersectional approach towards our work through that holistic lens. And throughout our representation and assistance of the complainant over the past 2 years, we've ensured that there have been various other systems and processes put in place to assist. So like psychosocial support and needing to understand the trauma that comes with making such a complaint and having adequate support for that, as well as having kept close contact with her employer and the department to understand what are some of the measures that her employer can place for her protection. When sexual harassment in the workplace takes place, it's important for employers to understand their positive obligations. And so we have interacted in all of those aspects, and we continue to do so even throughout this tribunal process this week.
Nearly 2 years after the complaint was filed, the complainant will now face off with the judge president. How is her state of mind this morning as she prepares to begin this momentous task?
It's very difficult. It's difficult for women to come forward to speak about violence against them. Violence in South Africa is pervasive, and in the workplace, any workplace, whether it's the legal profession or a different sector in South Africa, all workplaces are microcosms of our broader society. And where women experience violence, they are affected emotionally, psychologically, physically, mentally. And so, like I think you said it, we commend her bravery for coming forward, while we acknowledge the extreme difficulty coming forward brings with it, and her bravery to see this complaint through this process and to even be here today. And so the Women's Legal Centre will be here to continue to support her and also be available to support the tribunal process as and when it requires to do so.
Thank you very much. That was lead attorney for the Women's Legal Centre, Ms. Chrissy Blows. A lot at stake, Ayanda, for the complainant who has come forward in a very important matter, the first ever to hear the sexual harassment complaint. And as well, there's a lot at stake for the judge president as well, the top judge of the Eastern Cape, as because if this tribunal finds that he is guilty of gross misconduct and the JSC upholds that sanction, then of course you're dealing with the realm of impeachment. These hearings will begin at 10 a.m. this morning and will sit for the next 8 days. And of course, SABC News will be giving you that rolling coverage. Over to you in studio.
We certainly will. Canny Maphanga, live for us in Johannesburg. Thanks very much indeed.